with this, no further ado, I would like to hand it over to your presenter, Rajbir Mann.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the International Service CLT presentation. I'm going to be, I noticed there's several members from our committee on the call, and also the past chair, Aldo Milanovic. You know, I took over from him last year as the chair, and big shoes to fill, Aldo. And brief introduction about myself. I'm a long-term Rotarian, and I started out in India, England, and then Canada for several years. I moved to the Cambridge area about 3 years ago and joined the Rotary Club of Cambridge, Preston, Haspeller. I previously held leadership roles at both the district and club level in District 7090 and District 6400. In the international service, grants, and foundation areas. I'm currently District 7080, Director of International Service, as well as President-elect for my club. That'll be the third time around as president of a Rotary Club. I've been personally involved in and helped lead about 35 international service projects around the world in my long Rotary career. Through the Crystal Drops of Life initiative, we brought clean water, literacy, and sanitation initiatives to over 25 communities in India, Africa, and Mexico. So we're going to talk about some basics, and we'll have time for questions at the end of the presentation. After my presentation, there'll be two other Rotarians who are going to present a project in action, you know, showcasing collaboration and really vision, a lot of vision. So I'm going to share my screen at this point, and hopefully all is going to go well here. There we go. So the International Service Committee is really our role is to be a source for Rotary clubs to learn about international service, with an emphasis on promoting joint projects, collaboration, and utilizing Rotary grants, both district and global, in all the 7 areas of focus. Those of you who attended DG Rudy's session this morning, he talked about Rotary strategic priorities and objectives, and to increase our impact, to expand our reach, to enhance participant engagement, and to increase our ability to adapt. The District International Service Committee, DISC for short. So again, following the RI strategic plan of action, our role is to motivate and increase engagement, identify local mentors, resources, share best practices, promote use of mentors and resources for project and grant planning, and to collaborate with district and club leaders and beyond, and help connect you to resources. We're there to help you. Connect you with projects and clubs in District 7080 and beyond. Connect you with subject matter experts. Help you with project planning and preparation, and improve and enhance your global grant applications in partnership with the District Foundation Committee and the District Grants Committee. For clubs, if you haven't, I'm sure there's a lot of President PEs on the call. If you haven't designated a international service chair yet, I would encourage you to do that and have them contact us. We do run quarterly meetings. They've been online this year, but hopefully as we go into the next Rotary year, there might be some in-person meetings as well. And they're great opportunities, those meetings, to share project and grant ideas and ask to be connected to a mentor. And we encourage club members with experience and technical skills to connect with the District International Service Committee. If you serve as a Club International Service Committee chair, please communicate with us regularly for updates, communications. We put you on a mailing list, resources and best practices for success. Let's talk about the life cycle of a project. It's all these steps: planning and organizing, acquiring resources, implementing your project, and then evaluating and promoting. Promoting is very, very important. You know, in that picture, you see our Rotary International President nominee at this point, Jennifer Jones, and she talks a lot about telling your Rotary story. Rotarians do amazing things, but we don't tell the world about it. And it's not necessarily just the world, but other clubs. We have to share our successes and about the difference that international service projects make in people's lives. We truly have the ability to change lives, but we have to share that and we have to promote that. Roadmap to success for a successful project. Aligning a project or grant with Rotary's areas of focus. And we have 7 areas of focus now, with the environment, protecting the environment as the newest one. Obtaining assistance with project design, planning, and implementation. And there's resources here at the district level. We are the starting point, the DISC, or the District International Service Committee. Obtaining information about the global grant process. As you get further into it, conducting a community assessment, and a good community assessment is absolutely the key to starting an international project. Identifying local and international partners, securing funding. And every step of the way during that process, incorporating sustainability into your planning and implementation. And incorporating measurement and evaluation benchmarks. So the District International Service Committee, or chair, our role is to motivate, to get clubs to get involved in international service, maintain a district resource network, or a DRN, which is a database of local mentors who can provide guidance and technical expertise, help clubs find international partners, support district foundation committees and clubs with resources for projects and global grants, collaborate with other district leaders, the foundation chair, the grant chair, to recruit local experts to join the DRN, and to promote Rotary publications, online tools, and strategies for planning effective projects and grants. There's a wealth of knowledge on Rotary.org and under My Rotary. If you're not registered for My Rotary, please do that. Not just for international service, but for everything else. And I will have some links on one of the slides to access resources for international service. Let's talk about a DRN, District Resource Networks. Projects need mentors with experience, normally in 3 general areas: project planning and implementation, Rotary grants, that's a big one. If we don't have the money, we can't do the project. And Rotary's 7 areas of focus. It does help if you focus on in one of those areas, between the 7 areas of focus, it covers almost everything that we do internationally. I'm going to talk about my Rotary moment and how I got involved in international grants. More than a decade ago, my son was going through medical school, and he and his three other colleagues went on a trip, which was a sort of an exchange trip to India. And they were going to go to 3 or 4 different locations to do different things. And the first one, when they arrived there, they heard the first area that they were going to go and stay and work in fell through. They found that out the day they arrived there. So they called me and they said, we have nothing to do for the first week. So I called some Rotary contacts. And one of the clubs that knew me well, and we had some connections there in Northern India, in the Rotary Club of Jagadri, they said, you know what? We have 2 doctors near here who have done amazing work. They have a clinic, they have a hospital, they have a school, and maybe they can come and stay with them and do some work with them. So these 4 students went there, and they realized, the 2 doctors there, they encouraged them to do research in the community and see what the community needed. And they came to the conclusion, along with input from the doctors, that it was clean water, that there was no clean water in that village, the school, the hospital, or the neighboring villages. And Dr. Singhal, the doctor who's done a lot of work there, he said, people are getting sick faster than we can cure them because of lack of clean water. So they called me from there. My son called me, and all 4 of them were on the call. And they said, you have to do something about this. You do something about this. You have to bring clean water here. So I talked to Dr. Singhal. He says, we've tried before. The local Rotary Club has tried, but they don't have the resources. So I thought about it. I said, do I want to get involved in this? And I remember waking up one morning and telling my wife, I said, this is going to be a lot of work. She says, don't stop, just think about it, do it. So I went to my Rotarian friends. We had a fairly new club at that time, LaSalle Centennial. And we didn't have a lot of resources. And they said, how much is this going to cost? I said, it could be $40,000, $50,000. They said, that would bankrupt us. I said, well, there are Rotary grants. Well, we ended up doing the project and expanding it and starting a big fundraiser. And about 2 years later, there was clean water flowing in the hospital, the school complex, and in the village of Darva and 3 neighboring villages. And then it just went on from there. A lot of people got involved. I had tremendous help. And I've always said, it's the thought and the vision that counts. It's not the money. In the Rotary world, there are a lot of resources. There are a lot of partners who come forward when the cause is right. Money is usually not an issue. And let's talk about the DRN again. It starts with this committee, but the District 708 Foundation Committee and Grants Committee. The TRF cadre of technical advisors. We have advisors at the RA level in just about every area that you can think of. Rotary Community Corps, Rotary reps, community members who have done international projects and partners, Rotarians, Rotaractors, Rotary alumni, peace scholars, ambassadorial scholars, and Rotary action groups and vocational fellowships. There's a wealth of knowledge and resources out there that you can tap into. let's talk about Rotary action groups. You can contact a Rotary action group to get expert advice on planning and implementing service projects, including those funded by Rotary Foundation, district, and global grants. Connect with potential project partners, both within and outside of Rotary. Get help fundraising and obtaining resources for projects. And there's a directory on Rotary.org of these action groups. Hopefully, all right, this is not going to happen. In the practice, it worked, but it's not working now. So now I have to get out of here. All right.
When everything else fails, wing it.
Yes. So here, luckily, I did turn one of them into a slide. And Rotary action groups by areas of focus. As you can see there, there's a Rotary action group for just about everything. And I've been on calls with some of these Rotary action groups, and the talent literally on some of these groups is tremendous. It's just amazing. I mean, for example, if you look under clean water and sanitation, there's a water sanitation and hygiene action group. If you look under promoting peace, you have refugees, you have protecting the environment, endangered species, environmental sustainability, and just tremendous resources down there. There's some links as we move forward. So starting, if you go to Rotary708.org and go to resources and the district organization chart, you can click on international service. But here's a link right here, and we will be, I guess, sharing this presentation at some point. So there's a link in there. And then also in the organization chart, you have the foundation committee chair and the grants committee chair. On Rotary.org, My Rotary, this is the link for international project resources. Also the link for Rotary Foundation cadre of technical advisors. Also a link to Disaster Aid Canada, who not only have potential projects, but also many times tremendous resources. And in terms of partnerships, of expert advice that you can tap into. Also, I would encourage you to attend the Rotary Foundation session on Thursday, April 15th at 6 p.m., led by PDG Norm Benden and his panel. We are going to be taking questions at the end of the session. And I'm going to, at this point, introduce the next two presenters. Claire Conway and Bruce Friesen are both from the Rotary Club of Oakville, Trafalgar. They're both members of the International Service Committee. Claire has been a Rotarian for 8 years and has been heavily involved with international work during that time, serving 5 years as international chair and 2 years as the inaugural chair of the Milton Oakville Burlington International Cluster, known as the MOB. I have worked and assisted, she has worked and assisted on many global grant and district grant projects. Bruce has been a Rotarian for 3 years. He travels frequently in Central America and was doing international work on his own even before he joined Rotary. He is currently international chair and chair of the Milton Oakville Burlington Cluster, International Cluster. He has been the lead on 2 global grant projects and conducted numerous other projects both district grants and global grants. So without further ado, we're going to pass you on to Claire and Bruce. And then there will be time for questions at the end.
Okay.
You need to stop sharing, Roger, right?
Yes, I'm going to do that right now.
Okay.
There you go.
Super. Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? Can people hear me? Yes?
Yep.
Good.
Yes, you're good.
So we're going to be talking about a global grant currently in progress. And for those of you, I think there are new people here. Global grant is the way you do big projects within Rotary that incorporates money from the Rotary Foundation, which is a charity, Rotary's charity. So this one improves healthcare for the poor through the equipping and furnishing of the Canori Clinic in Chiquimula, Guatemala. And this is a clinic that is located on the site of Chiquimula University and is staffed by the fourth year medical students at the university. You see them there in the white uniforms. And it serves the poor. They charge a very nominal fee for somebody to come and they can get medical treatment and medicines. They use donated medicines. And I discovered this clinic while I was visiting Guatemala on a Rotary trip in February 2019. You've heard we have a mob cluster. That's 8 clubs working together on international projects. And the first few we picked were in this region of Chiquimula, Guatemala, hosted by the Burlington North Club. I'm sure some of the Burlington North Club are online today. So they ran a trip there every year and I hopped on it in February 19 to see what it was like, see what we had done there. And we visited this clinic and I will, there we go. Phew. Okay, so Chiquimula, Guatemala, you can see is 5 hours east of Guatemala City. It's very dry there, very hot there. And you can, I don't have time to read all these statistics, but it's a very poor area, 71% in poverty, and mostly that's the native Mayan indigenous people who live in the mountains. And you can see the statistics are horrible for healthcare for those people. So I threw in a picture there of a visit to one of the villages where we had worked. And when I got there, I said, where's the village? Because it's not what we think of as a village. There's houses up the mountains, down the mountains, around the corner. But you could definitely see the people out there visiting us. We were the event for the day. Very dry. Water is a huge commodity in these places. And then as part of our trip, you can probably recognize some Rotarians from Burlington North. We dropped off a bag of medical supplies at this clinic. And that's how I learned about this clinic. And I learned that people traveled for 3 hours on the bus to visit this clinic because it was so affordable. They could afford the health care there. But when I looked around, this is what I saw. I took that picture on the top left side. You know, the beds are all broken. They're lying on their side. They're all ripped. Very rudimentary place. And I just thought, I have to help. And I knew about global grants and about the government of Canada matching grant at the time. And I knew that a project like this would be eligible for both. And so I brought it back to my club and to Bruce, who helped me with this. This is a Canori clinic in action in front of the clinic. They run days, health screening days where people come, but they also go out to these remote indigenous villages and run screening at these villages as well. So I'm going to let Bruce talk about the next slide.
All right, the way we put this project together, sorry, is that we wanted to incorporate 2 aspects. One is to improve the long-term healthcare of Guatemala and also Honduras and El Salvador, because the medical faculty at the University of Canori serves El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. You can see from the map that Claire showed before, it's very close to the Honduras border. And so this university serves all 3 of those areas. But this clinic was the hands-on practical experience for these students. And as Claire, identified, this clinic was in dire straits And so when I went there, I looked around and said, okay, you have a lot of need here. And we asked what their need was. And they said, we need bandages. And I thought, you need a lot more than bandages. So we created a Rotary meeting quickly. And you can see this meeting here, those in blue are Rotarians, those in white and other colors, and the fellow at the very end is also, those are doctors. We met with the doctors from the Faculty of Medicine at the university. And the lady at the back in the black and white dress is someone I brought to the table because I've done other global projects with big projects, medical projects with her. And when you're designing a project, you need someone who can interact with the faculty at a very high level. So I brought her in. We designed the project here. And what we ended up coming back with was not bandages, but medical equipment and furniture and computers. They had their database and their medical records were literally files laying on the floor. So we created a list of things that they wanted, needed to have a proper clinic, to focus on the areas that they were going to teach in their medical faculty, that the students could get hands-on experience so that they could go out into the community and out into the hospitals and into the private clinics to do further practice with skill sets in hand. And when we did that, you move ahead, Claire, we had to design how is this going to lay out. Initially, the doctors were quite ambitious and they wanted to build a new building and they wanted to make an attachment to the hospital. And so we got kind of waylaid with the design because lots of politicians got involved and everything got involved. In the end, we did, as Claire said, we took the current clinic and we completely renovated it. And we made a plan and they had to, and this is something we designed to most of our projects, is the local beneficiaries have to do something. We want them to have some skin in the game. If they have some skin in the game, they're going to take care of this a lot to a much different degree than we have. So we had a project budget of $202,000, but the outcome was they put, if you went and bought everything, I'm sure that the renovation would be very expensive, but they used university staff and they renovated the clinic completely. If you can think about from the pictures that Claire showed you, don't quite do justice how bad it was. Think about your backwoods Ontario arena locker room. That's kind of the level we had. Cement blocks that were painted for walls. And we wanted to make it much, much better. We were not going to put equipment in there up to the level that we were talking unless we could get the commitment from them to have air conditioning, for example, because as Claire said, it's very hot there and equipment will break down in the heat. So they had to renovate completely, put air conditioning in, make it a real professional looking clinic, and then we would bring in the dollars. And this is what we did. And that took some serious work to make them, to hold them to account. As I said before, having a local person, the lady in the black and white, who I brought in from Honduras, who's done these kind of projects to negotiate with not only the doctors in the medical faculty, but also the rector of the university and with the local suppliers. All of that had to come together to make the outcome. And you can move ahead, Claire. And you can see now the front doors are amazing. Those front doors were donated by the owner of Duolingo. Duolingo owner is Guatemalan. He donated those front doors. Other Rotarians donated the bathroom doors because the university would only fund so and so much. But by this time, there had been so much community involvement that we had many others come to the table. And you can see from the renovated building that we've got the University of San Carlos at the top in Canada, Kenori. The University of San Carlos is kind of, think of like the University of Toronto and has the, I think it's the Glen Erin campus or Erin Mills campus. That's Kenori is for that outlier campus. So currently we have the equipment is in place. The filing cabinets are there, the beds are there. You can see they're still in plastic. The reason is COVID. They have had to close the university for COVID, but it's in place. But we won't take the plastic off and undo the boxes until they can open the university, because the day the plastic comes off and then the boxes get open is when the guarantee of the equipment starts. And we were able to negotiate that with the suppliers, that they could send the equipment and we would pay for it, but that the guarantee would start once we open the boxes. And so we're waiting now for the day that the university is going to reopen. When it's reopened, we'll have a installation day, have the people come in, install everything, and make it ready to use. But the community support at the end has been amazing. We've had a lot of success. And is this where we switch over, Claire? Where?
Oh, you can do this page.
Okay, so we had you know, like I said, the reason for success is that we work together very closely with the group in the club in Chiquimula. You know, my meetings there, I'm reasonably fluent in Spanish, so that allowed me to meet with the doctors, understand their needs, to negotiate with them, and but as I said earlier, having Kathy Guerra, the lady in the black and white, who came and acted as our consultant, and she represented our club in that project. She drove over from Honduras many times in this course of this project to negotiate with the doctor, to negotiate with the university, because initially, for example, they wanted to just put another layer of paint on the brick walls or the cement block walls. We said, no, that's not going to happen. It's going to look professional. We're going to get ceramic on the floor so you can clean, because in a medical environment, if there's going to be blood, you need to be able to clean. And so we had to push them, and you need someone with that skill set to be there. Some of the people on this call, I know Aldo has met Kathy, and Claire has met Kathy. She's a powerhouse. But tie that up with the enthusiasm from people like Veronica, the local Chiquimula club members, who some of you have met as well when she was up here for the international conference when it was in Toronto. So we had a lot of success, and but we had a lot of people.
One more, Bruce.
One more, okay. So the interesting piece was that the University of San Carlos, as I said before, that's the Toronto University, and we're the sub-campus. So Kenori is the sub-campus of University of San Carlos. Once they understood what was happening and they realized how amazing this was going to be, all of a sudden they were jumping on board, and they also, you know, even in COVID, they sent representation from Guatemala City to out to Chiquimula to see what we were doing, to see what was happening. So what that gives us is gives us that ongoing care and commitment from the mothership, if you will, and you know that, and they had to provide some of the money for the renovations because the local university ran out, and now they're super on board. And you know, as I said before, you know, the community has been getting on board, and they've seen what's going on, and we had to you know, draw in some of the people like the fellow from Duolingo, but we were able to do that quite easily once we had you know, once they understood that the money was there and we were going to go ahead. There was a trigger point. I mean, the trigger point is when the money actually arrived in Chiquimula. Then all of a sudden we had attention of everybody. One of the key things that's kind of funny was the Bank of Canada had a firm funding date, and we had to get busy. We were struggling with getting the design done. As you remember, I said initially they wanted to build a separate building. We changed that and went to the local building because we were running out of time. So we just said, here's how we're going to do it. And we had to drive that bus, or we're going to lose the Government of Canada funding. And the other thing is, and I would recommend this to everyone, build a working relationship with the Rotary's regional grants officer. If you have a working relationship, as I do with Maria and with Vanessa from the Honduras rep, having a working relationship with these people makes all the difference, because when you hit a pothole, and you will, you can work with them and to recover quickly and add the clarity to make sure that to your project profile so that you get the grant funding that you want.
Okay, I'm going to take over here and talk about fundraising, because the way we divided this up is I kind of looked after fundraising and working with the donor clubs, communications with the donor clubs, because I don't speak Spanish. I've been putting a lot of WhatsApps into the Google Translate. But reason for success with fundraising, our club only put $3,000 US into this project, where we don't have a lot of financial resources available to us. But we had done a large global grant before, and we had experience with raising large dollars, and the money came fairly quickly this time. We used a spreadsheet which has every single club in Canada on it, and which I originally downloaded from district websites, and we just email every club, offering them our marketing materials, and you can see that's page 1 of our marketing materials. And we share that file on Dropbox, and we have about 4 or 5 international committee members who go in and you say, you take district 7070, you take district 7060. And everybody works individually to email on Club Runner, offering the marketing materials and offering a presentation. And this time, all the money came based on the marketing materials alone. I don't think we had to do a single presentation, and the money came very quickly. And from outside of the district as well, based on these marketing materials. So I think if you have a well-designed project and with a detailed community assessment, it really sells itself. That's what Roger was saying also. And if you're willing to work on something and the project is well-designed, the money should not be an obstacle. It will come. It shouldn't put you off from doing these larger projects. And again, we had good connections with Rotary members. From networking. I think that's very important that you network if you want to do international work. I've talked about our MOB committee already. So we have the 8 clubs there working together, and we have a district international committee, which I've just found out is called DISC. But Aldo was great. He was the district international chair at the time and took on the cause and used his contacts to find money for us as well. And we had very good relationship with Norm, who was a district foundation chair. And this was all very helpful in getting the word out and getting the money to come. We thought we'd talk a little bit about the challenges, just because they can offer advice to other people. COVID was a huge challenge. The project stalled for quite a long time because all the doctors were busy, obviously. That region had 2 Category 4 hurricanes in 2 weeks, and the bridge between Honduras and Guatemala was washed away, and Kathy, our consultant there, could not visit the project. We talked a little bit about project scope creep. The original project was to renovate the existing building, and then the doctors thought, oh, we could do this much bigger building. We started to look into options, but what with COVID and everything else, we had to scale it back to where it had been originally. We've talked a lot about having somebody with the confidence and competence to negotiate with the doctors. Doctors have a lot of clout in these countries, and they're used to getting their way. So you need to find someone who could stand up to them and negotiate with them. And luckily we had Kathy to do that. She was very helpful. Some of the initial problems, we had presentation of new vendors after project approval. We had to put squash on that because all that work is supposed to be done before you submit the global grant. And then once we got approved, everybody else became interested, and oh, I have a cousin who can get the equipment cheaper. So that was a bit of an issue. And the final one, I think, is something we all do, even though we know we shouldn't. We caught ourselves doing it. We caught the local Rotary Club doing it, avoiding the temptation to tell the beneficiary what they need. The beneficiary has to be the ones to determine what they need. And a couple of times we questioned stuff, and there was very good reasons for it. One example was, why are the obstetrical beds so expensive compared to this other project we did? And the doctor said, well, I have a long-term plan of turning this into a major birth center for the region. And these obstetrical beds have surgical capability, so they're more expensive. So that is always something I think we have to be aware of when we do these projects. And this is the final slide. Equipping the Canori Clinic will improve the quality of healthcare in 3 countries. Thank you to all the 19 Rotary clubs who supported us on this. We couldn't have done it without you. And thank you especially to the Rotary Club of Oakville, Trafalgar, who is always so supportive of us running big international projects and just supportive of international work in general. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Stop sharing, Claire.
Stop sharing, right.
Thank you, Claire and Bruce. Thank you very much. And really, it goes back to partnership and having that vision and just tremendous work on that project. It's literally Rotary in action. We can talk about the slides and we can talk about, you know, all the resources there, but you have to make it happen. And that persistence is also key in international projects. So thank you again.
Roger, Claire and Bruce, there are some questions that have come in the chat box and you can decide among you who will answer. So Martin Van Dam asked, it would seem that district bracket grants frown on doing projects that we did in the past, but in different areas, and why?
I can take that. I don't think if you got that impression, I don't think that's true. I mean, we do have 7 areas of focus for Rotary, but that does not eliminate other projects. Definitely there's an openness to look at every international project and see where we can help and guide you in the right direction.
Thank you for that, Roger. There was a comment. I'm not sure I'm saying your name right, and I apologize. Saint Like Debussy. He said the slides are very informative and will we get a link? So I did respond to that chat saying the session is being recorded, and I hope somewhere in there the contact information for each of our presenters is available so that people can reach out to you if they've got further questions. But for the benefit of all the audience, in a few days, that'll be uploaded on the district site where you registered for this session. Does anybody else have any questions that they would like to ask in person at the moment? We have a few minutes. No?
So, yeah, I tried to type this question in earlier. I was just interested in finding out that with all the new equipment that we were able to get installed in the hospital, and because it's in a village, I'm wondering how we're able to ensure that they have stable power supply.
Yeah, it's very appropriate question because in Central America, stable power supply is very important. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to either attach it to the hospital or attach it to the university and not go into a standalone separate facility. The university has a power generator that is automatically, that kicks in when power is interrupted. So they have a stable power supply, as does the hospital. And that really comes into play when you're dealing with this kind of equipment, that you need to have that stable power supply. Power surges are death on electronics. And so that's a very good point. And that's why we picked those locations. In the end, we ended up on the university campus, but the other alternative was the hospital, and either one had to have stable power.
Thank you, Bruce. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I'd just like to reiterate, something that Roger said earlier, like if you're going to do these projects and you and it's your first time, you want to get involved, you know, it's not that hard if you start to partner with a club that's doing a lot of them. Our club has done a lot. We're right now working on a big project for a laboratory in Honduras. Because of COVID, it's identified a problem in the area. There's no laboratory for the general public. There's a private lab if you have money, but most don't have money. And so we're building a laboratory that will serve the general population, the poor especially. And so, you know, we have lots of experience. So if you want to do something in Central America, you want to following along with clubs like ours makes a lot of sense. We also just recently got, although helped me out here, Wayne Woods Club, I forget, Bramley. And so Bramley Club started tracking with us, and we got them their own project it's just a small project, but it's something that they can get involved with. So, and that they can start to lead, because they followed us for a while and now they're starting to lead a small one. And I think soon they'll be ready to do a big one.
And
Yeah,
you know,
I just also wanted to say that the district foundation chair will be offering a session, I believe on Thursday, right, Patricia? And that's a very good one to attend also. And they'll get into more of the specifics of the different match that the district will now provide, you know, more details on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to throw in a comment in response to something you said, Claire. Having done a lot of international work myself, mostly in Mexico, it's very tempting when you know you have access to money, and we want to be these great philanthropists, to want to go into a community and say, this is how we'll help you. And it's just so not up to us. We were more conscientious, I should say, of making sure that the local people, the local Rotarians in the north of Mexico, told us what they needed. It's not us running around with money, so to speak, to say, oh, we can provide this. So your comment should be highlighted and underlined, Claire. It was absolutely right on. Thank you.
absolutely, Patricia, that's right. You know,
Roger,
I second that with the projects I've been involved with. The ones that are successful are which come from the community that where we're doing the project.
And they're motivated to
And
take
where they have a
ownership.
buy-in, strong buy-in.
Yeah, absolutely.
That being said, in this case, when the Chiquimula Club was used to, they were very strong in garden projects, smaller projects. And initially when Claire identified the clinic, their initial response was to do something like some bandages and sutures kits. And so we had to have a meeting with them to sort of say, look, let's think bigger. Let's think real equipment that you can, ultrasounds that you can start to take your healthcare to the next level. So once we got their thinking to the right level, then we had to meet with the doctors and we listened to the doctors. So sometimes it just takes them, you know, I understand you don't want to be waving around dollars and just attracting problems, but we also got to get them to the thinking of the kind of scope that is available.
I would like to add a couple of words. First of all, my compliments to everybody involved, especially you, Roger. A great presentation. I need to just reinforce the fact that what Patricia, Bruce, and Claire have been saying about not being over exuberant and impose your will upon them. It has to come from the need up from them. Otherwise, you lose the pride of ownership and it will not be successful. I just want to reinforce that. And Manish, it's good to see you also. You've been in that part of Guatemala and you've done a lot of good work over there. Thank you.
I have a question for Clarence while everybody's still online and they can hear the answer. I had mentioned that the presentation it's recorded and will be available. And we have a question from Leanne T. Muller from Georgetown Rotary. Having the presentation separate from the recording would be helpful to share with club members. Now, my first reaction would be you could play that presentation at a meeting or some other time, but maybe Clarence could comment with his AV skills to let us know what would be the most effective way to share this.
I think part of that may be the desire to be able to click on the links, which you can't do on a video. Yeah, I think as long as the presenters are willing to share the presentations, we can also post the presentations on the club leadership page. And that way people can actually go and click the links, or they can use a slide, but we'll have to talk to the presenters about that.
Would that be just the slide deck that they would access then, not the dialogue?
Oh, I would suggest we post both.
But okay.
The video and the slides can be posted separately.
Okay.
Also, if with Bruce and Claire's permission, we could post the slides under international service as well on the district.
Yeah.
That's
So we'll talk to
presentations.
We'll work with Darren Sweeney on that. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
That's good.
But yeah, you can't actually click links off the video. That's the one thing with the video.
Okay.
And then it gives you an opportunity to have like maybe a 5-minute summary of the key points instead of, for the whole thing. Thank you.
Great.
Also, if you want us to present at your club, we will do it. If you want to try and encourage your clubs to work with other clubs in clusters, international clusters, for example, Bruce and I are very amenable to.
Also, if you want me as international service chair, or anybody from our committee to come out, please reach out to me as well. I mean, it could be Bruce and Claire. It could be another person who's done an area in a different, working in a different part of the world or in a different area of focus. And we could get speakers out to your clubs.
Thank you for that. I just want to pass along some of the other comments that have come in on the chat. Just lots of compliments about the quality of your presentation. Very valuable information for the participants today.
Thank
Well,
you,
and-
everyone, and especially to Bruce and Claire for joining in and really showing us the project in action, which which tapped into collaboration and really a very well planned and well implemented project.
Well, and with this, I will slowly come and bring our session to an end. I want to thank Rajbir, Claire, and Bruce for a very interesting and inspiring presentation. I also want to thank Clarence for his assistance with the AV side of things, and to Patricia for asking the questions and being a fantastic co-chair of this year's CLT. And again, to remind you, the session will be available online at a certain point. And on Monday, we will have the next session. It's the vocational service session presented by Ute Lindner. There is still time to register for that. The link is in the chat. And also, there is still time to register for all the remaining sessions of this year's CLT. And with this, thank you very much for attending this session. I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and we'll see each other soon.